The regular meeting of the Milton Board of Zoning Appeals for Tuesday, November 14th has been called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with the introduction of board members. Please confirm your attendance, beginning to my left.
Hi, I'm Laura Bentley.
Adam Danella.
Hodge Patel.
David Jackson.
Billy Carmen.
And Don Kurt and Zach Stafford are not here this evening. Item 4 on the agenda, I'll seek a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published by the City of Milton.
Motion to approve the agenda as published on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023.
Second.
We got a motion from Adam and a second from Laura to approve tonight's meeting agenda as published by the City of Milton. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 5 on this evening's agenda is approval of the past meeting minutes. I'll seek a motion to approve the October 17, 2023 meeting minutes as published by the City of Milton.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 17th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
We've got a motion from Laura and a second from David to approve the October 17, 2023 meeting minutes as published by the City of Milton. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Billy Carmen abstains.
Motion passes 4-0 with Billy abstaining. Item 6 on this evening's agenda is consideration of primary variances. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these 4 considerations. A, relief if granted would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause substantial detriment to the public good and surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. The first primary variance this evening is V23-18, 565 Blue Heron Way. Michael, will you please present?
Good evening.
Hi there.
Okay.
The address is 565 Blue Heron Way, and the applicant is seeking the following variance. To reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 6.4 feet for an existing accessory structure playground along the east property line, section 64-416D. The site is a 1.37 acre parcel located in the Lake at North Valley subdivision. Subdivision was platted in 1995 and predates the incorporation of the city. The property is on AG1 and located in the rural Milton overlay district. Applicable setbacks for the lot are 2 60-foot front setbacks, 1 25 side setback, and 1 50-foot rear setback. Here's the Lake and North Valley plat from 1995. The applicant is seeking a variance to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear setback by 6.4 feet for an existing structure playground along the east property line, as shown in Exhibit B. The lot is located in a cul-de-sac with a depth of 281 feet and a width of 282 feet. The topography map details there is an 18-foot drop in grade throughout the property, sloping in an upward direction from Blue Heron Way, as shown in Exhibit C. Primary single-family home was built in 1997, and the current owners bought the property in 2022. Septic fields are located along the south of the house and the rear yard directly behind the house per correspondence with the applicant. And that's actually shown on the plat. I can't really see it that well, but you can see here's the house and here are the fields right here and going into the side yard. In October 2022, code enforcement received an inquiry from a citizen that a newly constructed playground did not meet setback requirements. On October 27, 2022, a stop work order was issued by Milton Code Enforcement. City staff held an in-person meeting with the applicant on December 8, 2022, to discuss their options of moving the playground structure to meet setback requirements through a community development approved building permit or seek a variance to allow the playground structure to remain inside the 50-foot rear setback. The applicant submitted their retroactive building permit on April 24th, 2023. However, the site plan still showed the structure encroaching the 50-foot rear setback. City staff again informed the applicant that they would need to seek a variance to allow the playground structure to remain in its current location. The applicant began working on their variance submittal and officially submitted their variance application on October 3rd, 2023. The applicant submitted a proposed landscape plan as shown in Exhibit D for screening on the northern and southern side of the property that includes the following tree species: Nellie R. Stevens holly, Cryptomeria, green giant arborvitae, Japanese maple, and magnolia. The applicant is also proposing the following shrub species: Florida anise and linkstrom. And finally, the applicant is proposing pachysandra for ground coverage. And this breaks down the tree and shrub species in the proposed landscape plan. The applicant received Lake at North Valley HOA support of the variance request conditionally with the following requested items: remove the ancillary structure and suspension bridge connecting the main structure and remove the green plastic slide. Relocate staircase access to the side of the fort to the north side where the bridge was removed. Remove the existing metal roof and replace with a new metal roof equally quality other homes in the neighborhood, or installing a matching cedar shake shingle roof to the roofing of the single-family home. Stain the structure a darker color by the ARC, Architecture Review Committee, adding 5 10 to 12-foot Nellie Stevens to create additional screening. Here are the elevations of the structure, and you can see, I'll show later on, but there is a walk bridge that exists right where my cursor is through another structure on the side, and that is being removed per the request of the HOA. As you can see, it's 18 feet in height. Here is the stained wood showing the darker cedar approved by the HOA, and the metal roof that the applicant is proposing, also reviewed by the HOA. Here is the support map showing support from 5.5 Blue Heron Way, 5.7 Blue Heron Way, and the Lake at North Valley HOA. And if you follow my cursor, this line right here, to the right, that is the location of the Laurel Grove subdivision, which is a separate subdivision over here. And this is the Lake at North Valley subdivision. So again, they have support from 5.75 Blue Heron Way. In the Laurel Grove subdivision, they have support from 15450, 15460, 15475, and 15485 Laurel Grove Drive. Here are the letters of support. Oh, and I forgot to mention, all the Laurel Grove letters came in today, and those are in your packet that were stamped received today. And here are photos of the property, view to the west across the street, view to the east, which is the playground area as well, in the backyard. And if you follow my cursor, this is a good shot. So this bridge right here, this walkway being removed, including this structure right here. And they're just going to have a staircase added once it's removed.
We
We lost the
just
screen.
lost you.
We're
There you
back.
go.
All right. Apologize for technical difficulties. So right here is the walkway bridge that's being removed in the second structure That's also being removed. And if you follow my cursor, there's going to add stairs as shown in the elevation right here in its place. And I'll go back to the elevation so you kind of visualize it right here. These are the stairs being added, and the walkway and the structure over here is being removed. View to the south, which is more the backyard and the pool area. View to the north, which is the side yard. And here's a view from the street, and I did a green cursor showing the location of the swing set from the street. More photos of the playground. Here's a shot from the playground showing the backyard. You met on November 8th and had the following recommendations. Design Review Board recommends approval of V2318 565 Blue Heron Way to the Board of Zoning Appeals as adequately addressed the concerns of the HOA from a design and aesthetic standpoint and with sufficient plant screening to ensure that the children's play set is hidden. The board also recommended the applicant obtain letters of support from the neighbors who live in Laurel Grove. Recommended conditions for staff, if approved. Per the variance site plan from Foothills Land Survey and received October 10th, 2023 by Community Development Permit, and per the landscape plan from Everglades Landscape received on October 11th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. Any questions for staff?
Paul, I've got a question for you. The Homeowner Association made some recommendations on screening. We have two conditions that are in here right now. If a motion is made and conditions are listed, should we list those conditions if we want to include those, or should we just reference the HOA?
As
Letter.
long as you're comfortable that everybody knows what they are and is aware of them, you can, it would be probably a good idea to reference them at least one time to let people know what they are, the public know what they are, but then you can reference them in your motion and then staff can include them.
Thank
Whatever
you.
formal document that they get.
I got a quick question. If the variance is approved for the accessory structure, can a new accessory structure be built in its place in the future on the same footprint?
I guess if you have the question, I would go ahead and be clear what you intend.
So if we approve the variance for this accessory structure, in 10 years, could they build a shed or something in its place? If the playground structure was removed.
And I'd have to look at what the requests and the references are to whether it says the accessory, it says the existing structure as far as.
Accessory structure playground.
Yeah.
Yeah. So chances are it's going to be limited, but if you would specifically like it to be limited, I would go ahead and include that as a condition.
Okay.
I have a question. And they were talking about moving auxiliary structure, the bridge, and the green plastic slide. There was page 4 on down where you show the front elevation. It still shows a slide. Is that the same green slide or is that a different slide?
Different slide, yeah. So if this is, so here, look at on the far right, this is a slide that's staying.
Right.
And then on the other side is another green slide that's being removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep the circular slide.
Yeah, the primary slide will stay.
Okay. All right. That was my question. All right.
Michael, you've been to this property before. Can you give us an idea of the height of the fence that's separating the property to the rear?
Yes, my estimation was 8 feet
Okay.
from being out there.
So there's roughly about 10 feet of the overall structure that's above the top height of the fence.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And then were there any other locations that this could have been constructed that would have been less impactful, even if it was to a smaller scale and maybe not in the setback on the property?
I think you look at this picture showing the backyard. I think there's the flattest area on the whole property is right next to the pool. You can see it right here on your screen.
And then on the other side of the property, was there anything? I know they have the septic fields over there.
Yeah,
right?
it's really hilly and a
Okay.
big drop in grade. Yeah. I think that the topo map would be a good reference as well. Yeah, you can kind of see the biggest gap here. This is the flattest area, the whole property, and then drops back here, and then it raises back here. So yeah, that's the flattest area in the whole property, next to the pool.
Michael, from the pictures, I'm looking at the land survey, and it shows the distance to the property line is 6.4 feet. And if I look at the pictures, trying to find one. There's a picture kind of from the side angle there. What part of the structure, I guess, is the swing set? You know, is it the back corner of the building? The one with the roof? Like, what part is 6.4 feet? And then, you know, the swing set that extends off the back, is that, what, a couple feet or something?
Yeah.
How's that set up?
So we
back
didn't have a
there?
problem with that because we knew it was being removed.
Okay, that's being removed
Yeah,
too.
and actually we made sure the slide wasn't farther over than the corner of the property. But if you look right here, this is the farthest point, the 6.4 feet right here. And then the slide is more inward than the 6.4 feet. But yeah, if we're talking about, yeah, this part right here is proposed to be removed. We were fine with it, just referencing what they're requesting.
And what about screening from the rear side? I mean, with an 8-foot fence and a 18-foot structure, you know, is there an ability, you know, with that much space? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's an ability to screen in there. You know, I guess it's interesting that the HOA says they want screening to the front, to the street side, so as more, I guess, at some part of the property to block the view from the street. But what about the neighbors on the back side? And, you know, the north side and the south side essentially blocking from the street, screening from the south. But have you heard or talked to them about, or anyone about, screening along that fence line due to the height and size of the structure versus the fencing and to the rear properties?
I haven't heard any proposed, but I think it'd be a good question for the applicant if they thought about adding some screening.
Okay.
That's a different HOA.
Hmm?
That backside is a different HOA.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I guess the HOA just doesn't want to see it from the front.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I mean, when you're looking at, you know, actual screening to adjacent property owners who are most impacted,
Mhm.
it would be from that particular rear side as well, not just the north and south.
Good, Laura, I think you had a question.
And what brought them to this point? Was it a building, how did,
The Lake and North Valley HOA contacted the city regarding the
okay.
swing set.
which HOA? The one that, where the home resides or the adjacent HOA?
The one where the home resides.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
One more question. Will they have to submit like a drawing for the changes that they're going to do to it? Alter their permit, their building permit that they got before to build it? Will they have to get another permit to do the changes, or?
Correct. Yes. They would need to submit a building permit to make the change. Yeah.
So it'll show the new slide and the new, all the changes they're going to do?
Right. Yes. They have a retroactive one submitted from April, but that shows the whole structure,
Right.
not the reduction.
So now they'll
So they'll
have to
have to revise
resubmit
it.
for
Mhm.
this. Okay.
Yes.
So just trying to make, along with that point, let me understand kind of this. The building setback lines, that's always been there since it was platted. As before cityhood, it was always 50 feet. Is that correct?
Yes. From the 1995 plat. Mhm.
Okay. So then it was built in 95, 97, it looks like. They purchased it in 2022. And then at some point after that.
Yeah, fall of
I'm kinda
2022 they built
skimming-
it.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
skimming here. They built this structure, playground or whatever back there, but did not get HOA approval and did not get any kind of permitting from the city.
Correct.
Do they have a contractor do this? Do you know?
I don't know if it's a business that makes play sets. They'll be able to share the name,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's ask the applicant.
Fair. All right, but then thereafter, after code enforcement got them, they went ahead and submitted for a permit and then for a variance because they were outside the setbacks.
Correct. And they originally had submitted the permit without the variance in April. And then we reached out to them and said, you're showing it in the setbacks. You have to either move it or seek a variance. And that got the motion from them then to go down the route of submitting their variance request.
Any additional questions for staff?
Yeah, just the windows, and there's no climate control in there, is there?
To my knowledge, no, but I
Okay.
think that'd be a good question for the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll have a combined 10 minutes for the applicant to make an opening presentation, public comment from anyone wishing to speak in support, and a closing statement from the applicant. There will also be 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. If the applicant would like to come forward at this time, please state your name and address for the record. Additionally, during your presentation, if you can touch on the 4 considerations that this board needs to take into account in making the decision, please share with us in your presentation.
Okay. My name is Berkeley Bryan. I am an applicant speaking on behalf of the homeowners, Hunter and Kelly Ham. Kelly Ham is sitting behind me with their daughter Josie. And I feel like Michael gave a pretty great presentation for everything that you should know. There was a question about the climate control. There is not climate control. I'm trying to think of questions that you asked that should be. I think, Adam, you asked a question that Hodge said you should ask the applicant.
Screening from the
Buffer.
back.
Yeah. The screening in the to the rear of the fence line, which would be the east side of the property.
That's more than Berkeley
Yeah,
in terms of
go ahead.
screening.
Can you please, for the record, just state your name and address as well?
Ham.
Thank you.
So you can't see it on here, but the house directly behind us has a similar structure up towards the fence. So it kind of blocks our structure. There's not a great picture of it. And there's trees on their side. And then which we have their approval, and then the house directly beside them, which is the 2 homes directly behind it affects most. And there are taller trees, like I guess they're oak trees that have been there forever. We plan to put green giants block like right up against it, which I think only 2 can fit. And then as they mature, it should cover the entire back. We have some green giants. There aren't any great pictures just because it's of the play structure, but we have some green giants behind the current pool structure to cover that because we wanted more.
Michael, can you
privacy
put
in
up the
general.
plan on the overhead projector so we can see where she's pointing to?
I know, I was trying to pull up the
Yeah,
actual
can we
picture of the
Backyard.
backyard to be able to see.
Let's see.
Would the aerial be more helpful?
It's actually a picture of the backyard shooting into the pool, which
Yeah, that you had,
Photo.
yeah, it's
the survey is so.
okay, so
And then you can use the cursor to kind of
Yeah.
point
yeah,
to where
okay,
you're.
so here right here is a home that has a bunch of oaks behind it, which these are their trees. So you can't see the structure from their backyard. On this side, which I guess it's like more over here, is another home that has a similar structure. You can kind of see in this picture that they have the trees along that. They have a similar structure to ours. It's a play set and then some sort of shed type of building it's blocked from our view. But of course, whenever it's fall, those come down and we don't like that. So we plan to put, I don't know which picture. And these are the green giants along here, which it's cut out of that picture. But we plan to put green giants along this area. And with the structures leaving, so it's only 2 that will need to be covered the actual structure that's staying. The other, it's like ends up being 4, I think, in total of the property line on that back end, but that actually covers the structure, it's 2. And it's in our proposed landscaping plan, but it's not in the drawing because the drawing was to the HOA and they were only worried about the front.
I'm
Why
sorry,
did they
could you
want you-
repeat that?
Go ahead.
Could you repeat what you just said?
In the landscaping proposal it has the green giants in there, but it's not in the drawing because the drawing was originally just to our HOA to approve the landscaping to cover the front. The back HOA is not upset about it. They can't see it. You can't see it from their street. And those homeowners have trees to block, but it's our HOA that was upset about it.
Why are they, just curious, I mean, why are they making you remove part of the structure? So 2 things. One, I have concerns about the size of the structure in general, not really like how it's spread across, just
the size of it.
the size and scope of the project in the location.
Right.
That's my biggest concern. But why would they make you remove half of that, which seems to be the least impactful part?
Because you can't see the most impactful part from the driveway. So when the trees fall, you can't really see the actual structure. It's maybe a foot past our like garage area, but that extension you can see. So they don't want to be able to see it at all from we're the last house in the cul-de-sac, but they don't want to be able to drive down the cul-de-sac and see it at all from the cul-de-sac.
So help me understand what happened.
So the other
you
question you
got-
asked was about a contractor.
Yeah, so you didn't get any permits, you didn't do
So
any of that.
we hired
Didn't
a
ask your
contractor.
HOA. Tell me all about this.
So we hired a contractor that's it's Firefly Floors. They're based out of Milton. They've put up several of these. We assumed as a contractor that they knew all of the approval needed. They said that Milton did not require a building permit. So we hired them and were obviously mistaken. We met with Michael. He suggested us moving it. HOA would not approve us moving it. So now we have to go through zoning.
Did they share with you the reason they didn't want it moved?
Our direct next door neighbor, you have his approval in here. He's not the one in the cul-de-sac. The other one is the president, and then where buildable space is, he would be able to see it more. So, and we looked at that space originally just with the contractor, and our children are young. It's not in the backyard, it's our side yard. So I didn't feel that comfortable putting it there. I wanted it in our backyard. But it's just more visible to that direct neighbor. So he wouldn't approve it.
So just to be clear, the area where it's very flat, that was not acceptable to the HOA?
No.
Is that right? Okay, thank you.
What were some of the other alternative locations that you had thought about? And did you initially think about something at a smaller scale?
So originally it was going to be lower, but because of how the slope is, they had to build it up a touch. The other space that was suggested was we have to the left of our driveway is this area that has, I think, slightly buildable space, but again, it was more visible, so HOA wouldn't approve that. And then there is no other area in the backyard that gets it as far back that would be behind the house. And it couldn't come any closer forward because of the slope. It would have to be built up more. And that was a contractor thing. Obviously, my husband's unhappy about all of that. But at the time, we didn't know that it had to be approved by the city of Milton.
And just along the same lines, and what about the HOA documents and what approval process do you have to go through? with them?
HOA documents, we assumed as a play structure that it didn't have to go through actual like architectural committee. And the architectural committee is the person at the front of the neighborhood. It's a couple, and they're the ones that called the city and are unhappy with it. All of our direct neighbors and most of the neighborhood, in fact, is completely in our support.
Did they address it with y'all or just contact the city
They
first?
contacted the city first and then us.
Okay. So you're leaving, so I'm trying to see the way this is set up now. I'm looking
gonna go
at
back.
what's up here.
So
Go
all
back to
of,
the picture right before.
This
I don't know who
one?
did that. Yeah, number 6 right there.
okay,
So if I'm looking at it this way, you've got the front stairs,
those are coming off.
those are coming off, and that's going to be a rock wall.
Yes.
And then the stairs are going to be moved to the side, and this side that we're looking at stays the same.
This direct side on 6 that you're looking at stays the same. The front stairs come off, and then everything you see on the view of playground 5 completely comes off. And then everything other than the structure on 4 comes off.
Okay, so if you're looking at number 4, okay, there's a
Yes.
deck around the tree, behind the tree.
That
is
comes off, and that's where the stairs will
The
go.
stairs are going to go down.
They're okay with the stairs being there because truly it's hidden. Most of that is hidden.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, can you kind of hit on the 4 factors for us? As Hodge said in the beginning, we've got to make a determination that y'all have met all the criteria. If you want, or if we're able to grant a variance, you would have to meet these 4 criteria. So if you could kind of touch on how you feel like you've met the 4 criteria.
Is our letter right here? Because they were listed in our letter. Is our letter part of this presentation?
I have it right here.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you.
Granting relief would not cause any detriment to public safety.
Structure was built safely and securely. They've, the contractor, that's one of the biggest issues with moving it. It's got concrete to keep the structure. We've had it inspected only for our children's safety. And by a local builder, Randy, and he says it's a very stable structure, which was one of the biggest parts about moving it. It's a big thing. And then
It's just intertwined in this letter. I don't know the exact 4. I can't remember.
one of them was about
Do you have a copy you can show them the criteria?
remember whenever y'all have touched on
I
it.
can walk you through it, and if you want to just give us an explanation to each
Yeah, that would be
one.
great. Thank you.
So the first one is, explain to us how it does not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear because of the papers turning.
Sure.
Thank you.
Provide an explanation on how it doesn't offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance that the city has as it applies to setbacks.
And of the ordinance, I understand, in terms of it's not going to be detrimental to the people behind us if they resell the home, and we're going to do everything in our power. I mean, we love our home. I hate that this has happened because my children's play set we're going to do everything in our power to make it as nice as possible. We've done everything we put copper gutters on the house. We're trying to increase the value. And I think it's unfortunate that they didn't come to us, because I would never, ever want to cause any sort of harm to the neighborhood or the community. We love Milton so much. We moved out of Buckhead, and we just would never, it's just unfortunate. So we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that the neighborhoods behind are okay and that our neighborhood's okay. And then once our children are done playing in it, we're obviously going to take it down. It's not like that structure will stay forever. We won't build a shed there. We have no use other than we want our children to be able to play.
I think the fact that they also got letters of approval, not only in their direct neighbors side by side that are part of their own HOA, but also have gotten letters of approval from the neighborhood behind them, and I've asked them, and there's a neighbor that it's behind their backyard that they didn't receive a letter of approval for.
They're out of town.
They weren't able to contact them. So there was a letter placed in their mailbox, as well as just the
They're a
generic
very
signing.
corner neighbor that
Yeah.
you can't see it from their house, but
We, this is what we put in their mailbox.
You can just provide it to Michael.
So, there's a site plan attached to that, and the landscaping plan, and a letter describing kind of what the situation is. And a return envelope with our contact information if they had any questions, and we never received a response. And when they tried to knock on
I
the
tried to
door,
knock
they
on
were
their
out of
door.
town.
They've been out of
So
town.
the efforts have been made to try to contact that neighbor.
Okay. I think earlier in your presentation, I think you touched on the other 3 points that are on here as well. Thank you. If you'd like, you can have a seat.
Okay. Thank you.
Michael, is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this application?
There's not.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
There's not.
There's not. If you'd like to come up, we're really at the end of our time limit of the 10 minutes. But if there's a brief statement that you'd like to make, you're welcome to do that.
I think we have presented everything from the start of October when they purchased the home last year until now. We've tried to make efforts to work with the HOA. Every request that they've had towards us, we've said, yes, we'll do it. We'll plant more trees. We'll stain it a certain color that you want. We'll change the roofing. We checked with all of our neighbors for letters of approval. So we are trying to do everything to make sure everyone's happy.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff or for the city attorney before I close the public portion of this meeting or this application?
There is one question about, is this the tree one?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So how would we put in a condition that this variance is just a playground structure? That's my own.
That's fine if you have a more specific concept of what you consider a playground structure. You can do that. Otherwise, it will be left to the interpretation of the director. I think it's pretty fair. I wouldn't be too concerned if that was the language you used.
Y'all have any recommendations of conditions?
Well, the variance does say accessory structure playground. Is that enough to cover us? Because it specifically says playground in the request.
But, if the request says it, I would go with that. If you specifically want to, I think putting it as a condition, with a condition that it's be used as solely as a playground. I mean, if you want to talk about the size, if you want to talk about the nature of the equipment that's along with it, they could theoretically change the playground that goes there. But if it's attached to a drawing, which I believe was one of the proposed conditions, you're not going to be able to change the footprint really. So
Okay.
I don't think much is going to change.
Doesn't sound like the HOA would approve that anyway. Are you worried about it being expanded?
I was worried about this variance kind of superseding, like if they get the variance for an accessory structure, then they could build a giant shed right next to the fence. And the HOA couldn't do anything about it because they got a variance from the
Well,
city.
the HOA is going to be applying different rules.
Okay.
They're going to be applying the covenants, whereas the city is applying the zoning ordinance.
I mean, I think
I think by
playground.
saying play set,
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
play
long
set
as
is-
playground's in there, I'm fine with it.
Do you want it to say play set or playground? Does it matter? I mean, play set,
Realistically, a play set.
I think it's a
Yeah.
play set.
Play
I mean,
set
as
would
long
be
as it
a-
doesn't turn into a house later, that's all
Play
I was.
house.
Yeah.
I think a play set makes sense.
Mhm.
did you have a question for staff?
No, I think
Can I make a comment? I'm looking at this plat here. And there's no place on this piece of property that they could build this place set that's
quick
in,
motion to-
that's outside the.
didn't we talk about this?
Let's, let me close the public portion of the
Alright.
meeting, and then we can take it up for discussion once we get a motion in a second. I will close the public portion of this application, and I will open the floor for a motion and a second on V23-18.
Chairman Patel, I'll make a motion to approve V 23-18 to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 6.5 feet for an existing accessory structure playground along the east property line, to include the following conditions from staff. Per the variant site plan from Foothills Land Surveying received on October 10th, 2023 by Community Development Department. Per the landscape plan from Everglades Landscape received on October 11th, 2023 by Community Development. Only to include a play set. And finally, to the condition to also include all HOA requirements.
I'll second.
All right.
Should we make a quick jump in? Laura said 6.5. Did you mean 6.4?
Yeah, I wanna get
I'm sorry,
clarification on that.
6.4. Can I,
And
That's fine.
Hang on,
Okay.
even before that, the way it's written is moving the property line as a whole. You know, essentially the way I read it is looking to accommodate that rather than to approve the encroachment of the accessory structure into the property line or up into the rear setbacks to a maximum of 6.4 feet. Does that make sense, Paul?
I didn't follow you, and I don't have it in front of me anymore. So
This, the way it reads is to reduce the 50-foot rear yard to 6.4 feet for an accessory structure, as opposed to the accessory structure encroaching into the rear yard setback
It's already
to a
there.
maximum of 6.4 feet, as long as it's,
It's referencing existing accessory structure, which is shown on the site plan.
okay, I'm not sure how that applied to what you just asked.
so,
I understand what you're saying.
Reduce
yeah,
the variance.
it's not the whole line, is my point. The way
Okay,
it's-
I
do you-
see.
You understand the way I read it?
Is it a 50-foot minimum rear yard setback? Is that the word that's missing here? To
yeah,
reduce
it
the
seems like
50-foot?
the word setback is missing.
So we sat down with the zoning manager and combat director, and we kind of changed our wording around to match the code better. It actually says minimum yard in the code. So we're verbatim taking what it's called.
From the code?
Yes. So
Right, but my point is, we're not reducing, we're allowing the structure to stay where it is based on what I think you're thinking, and maybe that's not what you're thinking, but not moving the whole rear yard back to 6.4 feet. You see, along the whole rear yard.
and we say our
So,
interpretation. Yeah.
just articulating that, now we're not moving the line back, we're allowing the building to stay.
Right. We used to have the encroach language, but after we met and discussed it more, we thought this was cleaner and more like palatable to like the public. Because as you recall, our language used to be you can encroach by this, but we sat down and
Yeah, well, right. I guess it's just the building to encroach that versus the line to be moved. So I don't kind of let Paul tell us one way or the other if that's right. I just don't want to I want to make sure we're making the wording meets what
Yeah.
the intent
Yeah.
is.
I think his question is, they're not moving the 50-foot setback. I mean, it's still a 50-foot setback.
I know they're not trying to. I'm saying with
It
what
could be
the
misinterpreted.
yeah, I don't want it to be misinterpreted that
Right.
what we're granting moves the whole setback. You see what I mean?
Right.
Or what she's
But-
made a motion on is not the whole line, it's just
Right.
the building.
I'll let Paul
encroachment.
jump in, but I believe referencing the place set nulls any other structure being closer than 50 feet because you're referencing the place set, which will likely be conditioned for the site plan.
And it's on the site plan. And I believe you made a condition to that on the site plan.
Yes, that was the first one.
So as long as that works, that's fine.
But this could come up
The-
every single time.
Yeah,
now.
yes, I'm looking, I've never, it doesn't say setback, is it the minimum rear yard?
Yeah, it feels like that
You're
word.
looking at the code right now, Paul?
Yeah,
Yeah, so, yeah, we had a meeting and we changed the language around. And you got it, Adam, yes.
well, I gotta go back to definitions, hang on.
You
That being said, we can
attorneys.
have discussion while he looks.
Yeah, you
Billy,
can-
you had a comment?
Well, yeah, looking at the site plan, there's no place they could build this playset that's not in the setback, or that's not out of the setback, is what I'm saying.
I think she said, well,
I mean, if you pull it down
more
on
or
the,
less, yeah, I agree. I think the only spot realistically would be like on top of the pool. But
Well, that
there's
little
that
bitty
little
corner
point
right
at the
there.
top, whatever that is, if there, yeah, that,
But
I
then
think she referenced that there was some
the
issue
homeowner
with
association,
somebody.
it's gonna be sitting right out in the middle of everything. so.
Yeah,
And down here, their septic systems down there. so
right, yeah, it can't be on the south side of the
Yeah,
lot at
so
all, or
I-
the south side of the pool.
I don't think it would go anywhere else. That's out, but.
So for our discussion purposes, if the applicant had come to us and gone to the homeowner association, this variance came out without a structure even being built there, I don't know if we would actually approve a structure that large, 6.4 feet in the rear setback line. My thought would be that we would work with the applicant to make something smaller in an alternate location that would satisfy the adjacent property owners, the homeowners association, and minimize the encroachment into the setback.
I agree with that too. I mean, you know, I think that the size and scope of this project in this location does not make sense.
I think,
And it's, you know, unfortunate they didn't review their HOA rules and their contractor, you know, yeah, I mean, I get it. You hire a contractor, you hope they know what they're doing, and they do this all the time here in Milton, so they should know that there's rules about this, but at the same time, they kind of failed them, but it's ultimately the property owner's responsibility too. And my concern is, to an extent, screening it, you know. They're seemingly, I mean, I don't know what and how wide the trees would get. The green giants, 6 feet is tight.
it's gonna,
I mean,
if it's a real green giant, it's gonna be 15 to 20 feet at the base.
that's what I figured. And so having this move forward, and, you know, they said they had to go up on piers to do it. I mean, you know, it sounds like they could have
If this structure would
done
have,
something in a different place, in a different way, a different size that could have worked better.
if the entire structure would have gone to DRB first, and they said, you need to make it smaller, and then it came to us as a smaller structure, then we would have, I mean, that's something that we would have approved. I mean, they're basically taking,
Depends on where it was located, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
it would have been a better
but I mean,
scenario.
yeah, they're taking probably 2/3 of it away in order to get it approved.
The 2/3 of it they're taking away, I don't even think is that detrimental, to be perfectly honest. I
Right,
mean, that's an
that's why-
HOA want that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me,
No,
to be
I-
perfectly
I-
honest. Like, I could care less
Mhm.
that the HOA thinks it's too wide and that they can see it.
And that portion that they're taking away is lower to the ground, so it's less visible. One of the things that I do like is that the motion that was made, there was a condition on there that it's specific to this playset. So in the future, we're not going to see some sort of other accessory structure replacing that.
And the other thing I think if, we wanted to add is something from, like you said, if a green giant's 15 feet wide at the base, is there something that they can work with the city arborist to come up with screening that makes sense and have that as a condition in order to see what is best suited for screening along the backside in the limited space that they have? I mean, obviously there are green trees that don't grow,
You don't need it 60 feet.
Exactly.
You need it 20 feet.
Yeah, you need something 20 feet that's 6 foot wide. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I don't know what they're called, but I'm sure the arborist knows.
So was that, and I don't know if we have a clear picture of where the trees are on the adjacent property on the other side of the fence? Yeah,
So yeah, we don't have a good picture of that on the other side of the fence
yeah.
there.
And I think because of those trees on the other side blocking this, I mean, that's where I was getting comfortable with it not being a substantial detriment, unless we have some sort of event where those trees get lost. I also, I don't know, that's not a very big gap to plant much between the fence and the structure. So
There are, I mean, I will say, I mean, I've been looking for specific size, small green trees, very small, and they're hard to find. But what I have found is a lot of different evergreen trees that grow at many different sizes, but they typically are much taller than what I'm looking for in the 20 to 25, 30 foot range, but can be like pencil point junipers. Those tend to be narrow, but 25, 30 feet tall.
It's beyond our scope.
Yes, it's well beyond our scope.
Paul, did you find anything?
Yeah, if it's in layman's language, the way we as citizens might think the term yard would apply to the house and what's behind the house. The rear yard would be what's behind the house. In fact, the definition references the area between the rear lot line and a structure. So it effectively then is no structure will be in that rear yard. So the language that they have this written in the agenda is the language that's used in the zoning. It actually used in the zoning ordinance and is appropriate, and it's written correctly. Just a little non-intuitive for the way we typically think of a yard being right behind the house.
So just to clarify, we are not changing the overall setback from 50 to 6.4. It's just for that specific point of the playset.
Well, I think you're reducing it, but since you specifically reference that it's only for the existing playset structure, then that's the only thing that can be put in there.
According to the site plan. I mean, that's part of
also,
that's the
and the
condition.
terms of the motion as well. But the site plan also shows that.
Well, right ahead. I just want to get clarification on this motion. The homeowner association's 5 conditions. Did you have that in there as well too?
I said subject to the
Subject to, okay.
So I want to be clear.
HOA requirements,
Make
but
sure we're clear on, are they the same in their letter as well as this letter? I thought they might.
I don't think she referenced those 5 points. I think she just
said, I just want to be clear as to
she
what
just
they
referenced
are.
the homeowner's guidelines.
And is everybody comfortable with what's in there? Okay.
do you want me to
actually-
restate my motion?
Now, I mean, I'll read them in.
Oh, okay.
We vote. I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, no, that's,
I can put on the overhead, the HOA letter.
yeah, can we do that, please?
That would be great. Let's save. I don't know how many there are.
Yeah.
or
5.
what they look like. Oh, that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
I summarized it, but I can go to my page. That's more clear if you'd like, but they're all the 5 bullets right here.
Yeah,
I
if
think
you want to
that
reference the 5
suffices.
bullets from the October 10th, 2023 HOA letter. That's the same one he's showing.
Yep. So do I need to amend my motion and start over?
We've had a lot of discussion since then. I don't recall the exact nature of the motion. So if Hodge has it, he's,
I've got it here.
Okay.
if he restates it, then we're
That's
good. You
great.
don't have to remake it.
Okay.
As long as I don't have to restate it.
Have a second.
I did.
No, David.
David. Okay. So V 23-18565 Blue Heron Way, we've got a motion from Laura and a second from David to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 6.4 feet for an existing accessory structure playground along the eastern property line. The conditions are, the first one is per the site plan from Foothills Land Surveying received on October 10th, 2023 by Community Development Department. Second condition is per the landscape plan from Everglades Landscape received on October 10th, 2023 by Community Development Department. And that it's only to include the playset. Additionally, the conditions that were displayed on the screen that were conditions from the Homeowners Association are also included. There were 5 conditions there.
That's,
I'm sorry. Is that everything?
Does that cover everything?
yep, that's what I remember I said.
That's fine. One point of clarification is for anybody, staff, or I'm looking at my package that was on my table, and I see the landscape plan that I have shows received October 11th, and I believe what you read said received
October
October
10th.
10th. I didn't know if there was a different one.
It's 11.
It's 11.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is that doesn't show anything.
So on that
Say anything
condition,
About adding screening on the backside?
I did not.
It's not on here.
What's that?
So there's no screening on the east side of the property in between the property line and
The fence.
the fence or the structure and the fence, as it's not on the landscape plan because the landscape plan only goes to the back of the structure. So I would want a condition to be supplemented to the motion that there be screening, sufficient screening on the east side of the property line as approved by the city arborist in kind of size and width, whatever, however you want to do that, to screen in between structure and the adjacent lot, the rear of the structure, which would be the east property line.
Okay, let's treat that as a motion to amend
Yeah.
the
Okay,
motion.
I'll make a motion to
Yeah.
amend the motion.
And was it, as I understood it, is
It
it
was to add
Additional screening.
additional screening to the east side of the property line behind the structure in between the fence and the structure
okay?
of sufficient size and shape as may be recommended by the city arborist.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that open for discussion?
Yep.
I think
Sorry,
that's
Hodge.
just starting to nitpick. I mean, if the neighbors behind the house have already approved it without any trees there, I mean, we're getting,
Well, they're not going to be there forever. And the whole thing is, I mean, I could very easily say that I don't agree with any of this based on, I don't necessarily see it had to be in that location and 18-foot high. And they failed to get their permitting. They failed to read their rules that they got at closing last year. I mean, they're very aware of the rules, despite,
if that's
they got
what
it.
it's gonna take,
But-
then I think they would be happy to plant a couple trees.
And I know, I
just
mean,
don't think
they've
it's-
already said they're willing to do it.
Right.
That's why I recommend it.
I just don't think that's part of what this board is supposed to do, to recommend trees.
I wouldn't personally recommend the HOA requirements. I think those are ridiculous. to be perfectly honest with you. I think that they don't need the trees in the front and they could leave the rest of the play set because it's less impactful. And if you just did trees on the back side, that would satisfy me more, but the HOA less. So that, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
I'm not overly excited about adding that second amendment to it on the screening side of it. One, I think it's maybe too large for that area, whatever screening goes in there, because you're going to need something that's pretty tall.
Can we, okay, yeah, I mean, I was just going to add too, if you, I mean, in between that gap between the back of the structure and the fence, and then all those trees there, it's, I mean, it might be difficult to get something to grow, but, you know, if that's what we need to do, you know, I mean, are you going to suggest a certain amount of trees or?
Whatever the
Okay.
city
For the city
suggests, I
arborists.
mean,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
Is that really something that the city wants to go back there and check to see if they have trees behind a playground?
a little bit on their permit. I think they'll have to have trees on their permit. It's gonna get, I mean, when it goes to the permit, they check everything anyway.
And the arborist would make a recommendation of what she thought would grow there. Is that what you're thinking?
Billy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's not very much room between the fence and the structure. Whatever you're going to put there is going to either grow against the fence or grow against the structure. And I don't, again, I second it, but after I think about it, there's not that much room. Again, the people behind it don't have any issues with the screening. If an arborist were to go out there, he may not recommend anything. He may not find something that's going to grow there. Like you said, with all the trees, small trees under big trees don't seem to do well. So I don't have an issue either way. I could, I don't think they need any screening back there.
We'll wait on Laura to come back and we'll
Do we vote on the amendment? and then-
vote on the amendment first. And then we'll, from there, we can vote on the original motion. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment.
Why don't I just withdraw the amendment? I can withdraw my motion.
I'm good.
Okay. So Billy is withdrawing the second on the amendment to add the additional screening. Adam is also withdrawing his initial motion on the additional screening to the east, subject to the arborist approving that. So I'm going to read through the original motion that was made by Laura and seconded by David. It is for V23-18 to reduce the 50-foot minimum rear yard to 6.4 feet for an accessory structure playground along the east property line. And there's a couple of conditions here. Per the variance site plan from Foothills Land Surveying received on October 10th, 2023 by the Community Development Department. Per the landscape plan from Everglades Landscape received on October 11th, 2023 by Community Development Department. And this is only to include the playset, as well as there were conditions from the Homeowners Association, which was displayed on our overhead screen earlier as additional conditions. All those in favor of approving V23-18 with the stated conditions, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and continue to work with the city staff. Item 7 on this evening's agenda is consideration of appeals and secondary variances.
None?
Item 8, old business.
None?
Item 9 is new business.
Also none.
We do have some new business. Michael, the BZA has gotten you a little
Oh, wow.
gift. And we wanted you to know how happy we are for you. And we know you're going to be a great dad and your wife also. And don't worry, it's about a solid 30 years, right? Solid. I mean, but
Goes by
congratulations. Congratulations.
Enjoy it.
We couldn't be happier for you.
Wow.
So,
Thank you so much. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
yeah.
I was like, that's not on the agenda. I was looking at it.
I'll
We
let
get-
you handle
We got a
it, too.
motion from
Wanna get-
Billy and a second
Right.
from Hodge to adjourn. Saying no discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.